Motorola has launched a lot of smartphones in 2022 and according to me the Moto Edge 30 is one of their finest devices. I've been using it as my primary device for about 3 months now and I bought it back in July for about 30,000 rupees from Flipkart. This is the 8GB and 128GB variant, but you can also get a 6GB RAM variant. A few of you asked about the full review, so here it is. Now, if you're interested in this particular topic, then make sure to stick till the end. With that said, let's get into the video. Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. I'm Shinobi and today we are reviewing the Moto Edge 30. Let us start with the build and design of the device. The Moto Edge 30 is a slim and lightweight device and that is one of its biggest plus points. The 155 gram weight and the 6.8mm thickness make it one of the slimmest and lightest devices in the price segment. I love using it with one hand because my hands don't get fatigued even after prolonged usage like it used to happen with some other big devices that I have previously used. Having said that, it's not a small device at all. The screen is big enough and the phone is wide enough to make it difficult for you to reach all four corners with one hand. The matte polycarbonate back is also quite slippery, making it a bit more difficult to handle the device with one hand. The power and volume buttons are located on the right side of the device and both of these are tactile and pretty easy to press, but I would have wished them to be a little bit more wider because the buttons right now are very slim and sometimes it like hurts. So yeah, a little bit wider volume and power buttons would have been better. On the bottom, the Moto Edge 30 has a USB Type-C port, a primary microphone, the main speaker and the SIM card slot. By the way, it only has 2 nano SIMs, there is no SD card support. The top of the device only houses the secondary noise cancellation microphone. The front of the Moto Edge 30 also looks quite good with the slim enough bezels and the tiny punch hole which houses the 32 megapixel selfie shooter. There is Gorilla Glass 3 protection on the front and I haven't seen any kind of major scratches or anything on the front screen. But something like Gorilla Glass 5 would have been preferred much more because of added durability.
So the haptic feedback on the Moto Edge 30 is quite good. The haptic motor works really well, but the haptic feedback has not been very well implemented in the UI. So you don't really feel it in most places. But yeah, wherever it is available, it feels really nice and yeah, it gives you a very good experience.
Overall, the Moto Edge 30 is a well-built device and I have no major complaints with the build quality. Glass back would have been preferred at this price point and also Gorilla Glass 5 at the front as I mentioned, but these are not deal breakers. Now let's move on to the display and the audio configuration of the Moto Edge 30. The 6.5-inch Full HD Plus 10-bit 144Hz POLED display of the Moto Edge 30 is an eye-catcher. The colors are punchy and the overall display looks very good. Although the brightness could have been a bit better for outdoor viewing when you are under direct sunlight, the screen is not much visible and yeah, that can be a deal breaker for some people. But indoors it is plenty bright and you can easily see everything. Outdoor it is also quite visible, but yeah, a little bit more brightness would have been appreciated. The display is also HDR10 certified, so you can view HDR videos on something like YouTube, because on all of the OTT platforms HDR playback is not supported for some reason. But yes, it does support HDR and it is HDR10 certified. But overall the media experience is pretty top notch because the display looks amazing with anything that you watch on it, and you also get the option to like change up the colors a little bit in the settings if you don't like the default calibration. So yeah, that is a thing that you can do. And the device is also wideband L1 certified, so you can watch full HD videos on all OTT platforms, may it be Hotstar, Prime Video, Netflix, etc. Some users have reported a green tint issue with their Moto Edge 30. But personally I haven't really found any kind of issues with my display as of yet, and mine works perfectly fine. All the colors look as it is and I'm quite happy with the display. But yes, there is a lot of like problem with the display with some other units. This is basically a quality control issue. Now the problem that I faced with my Moto Edge 30 was with the proximity sensor. The proximity sensor of the Moto S30 is really finicky. It has not been calibrated well. So whenever I'm on a call, the screen like turns on and random things keep happening on the screen, which shouldn't really happen. The screen should be off while you're on a call. And also when I am like playing music and the phone is in my pocket, like random things again start happening on the screen. So yeah, that is one issue that I faced, and I am like really irritated with that issue, and it has not yet been fixed, and I hope that Motorola can fix that with future software updates. So as I mentioned earlier, that the display has a 144Hz refresh rate, and that is absolutely true. In the settings you get the option to choose between 60Hz and 144Hz, although more options like 90 and 120 would be appreciated. But yes, there is an auto option in the refresh rate settings. So when you have selected the auto option, the display only scales up to 120Hz, non 144Hz. It will only scale up to 144Hz when you specifically select the 144Hz mode. So that is something to note if you are using the auto mode. But for best battery life, I would suggest you to work with the auto mode itself. You don't really see a difference between 120Hz and 144Hz that much, so yeah, it shouldn't be an issue. And in the auto mode, it automatically scales between 60, 90 and 120Hz depending on the content on your display. So yeah, the auto mode is the most efficient, and I would suggest you to use that, and it works like a charm. There is also an in-display fingerprint sensor on the Moto S30, and yeah, the fingerprint sensor is fine, I would say. It's not the fastest in-display fingerprint sensor I have used, and yeah, it's quite accurate, but sometimes it takes a few tries to unlock the phone. So I would recommend to register the same finger twice for better accuracy. And also you can change the fingerprint unlock animations from the settings, which is a really cool addition. Another good thing about Motorola phones is the addition of Moto Display, or Peak Display as it being called nowadays. And yeah, the Peak Display might just be the perfect replacement for an always-on display. It works on both OLED and LCD displays, and it is way more interactive compared to your regular always-on display. And Moto has also added a anti-flicker toggle in the settings, and yeah, that is really helpful, especially during night times when the screen flickers a lot and it might be an issue for some people. So overall, I would say the display of the Moto S30 doesn't disappoint. Now for your audio needs, the Moto S30 does miss out on the 3.5mm headphone jack, but instead it gives you really good stereo speakers which get plenty loud and are very clear. But one downside of these speakers is that when you reach above the 70-80% volume, the phone starts to vibrate a lot, and that might be a deal breaker for some people. But apart from that, the speakers are really solid. The combination includes the bottom firing speaker, and the earpiece acts as the secondary speaker, and we can say that it is a 60-40 combination, because like the maximum sound comes from the bottom speaker and the earpiece adds the low end or other frequencies. So yeah, overall the speaker quality is really good. And you also have Dolby Atmos support for both the stereo speakers and for your Bluetooth accessories. And Dolby Atmos does add a little bit of depth in your audio, and you can select between the type of content that you're watching, or you can just leave it on auto and it will decide automatically. Now let's talk about the performance and the battery life of the Moto S30. The Snapdragon 778G Plus on the Moto S30 is a decent performer when it comes to day-to-day tasks, and it also is no slouch when it comes to gaming. If you use the recommended settings, then all of the games that you play will play out smoothly. I tried playing Call of Duty Mobile, Apex Legends and Asphalt 9 on the Moto S30 and everything played out smoothly. Now, Motorola does bundle a RAM boost option in the settings, but I would not recommend using that because that uses your storage as the RAM and you get about 2 GB of extra RAM, and that is not really needed because the 6 and 8 GB RAM variants both perform really well in RAM management and most apps stay active in the background, and you don't really need that RAM boost mode. Now, the RAM used on the Moto S30 is the faster LPDDR5 RAM, and the storage is the newer UMCP5 storage, and basically the RAM and the storage is like soldered into the same chip, which results in better performance, and hence the Moto S30 performs really well while like opening apps or keeping apps in the background. And in day-to-day tasks you won't really feel anything, and even while gaming it is very good. Now, the only issue with this is that you are only limited to 128 GB of storage and there is no SD card support. So both the variants, both the 6 GB and 8 GB RAM variant come with 128 GB of storage and you have to live with that. There is no 256 GB variant. Now, when we talk about battery life, here also the Moto S30 doesn't disappoint. The Snapdragon 778G Plus is a very efficient chip and that efficiency does translate to the battery life also. I am averaging around 7 hours of screen on time on a daily basis with medium to heavy usage, and I mostly use my phone on Wi-Fi, so it's about 70% Wi-Fi and 30% mobile data, and with that I'm getting over a days of usage all the time and sometimes even 1.5 days of medium to heavy usage. And if you're a light user, you can even squeeze in about 2 to 2.5 days of usage with about 6 to 6.5 hours of screen on time, and that is incredible battery life. Now, if you're forcing 144 Hz, the battery life or the overall screen on time might decrease by about 30 minutes, and the same happens if you are completely using mobile data throughout your usage. You also need to know that my smartwatch stays connected all the time to the phone, hence Bluetooth is always on. So this kind of battery life is really surprising coming from a 4020 mAh battery that the Motorola S20 has. Other smartphones with this kind of battery capacity don't really last this long, and that is a very excellent thing, and this is like one of my most favorite things about the Moto S30. Now, I can easily go and move around and go anywhere and not be tensed about the battery life because it is so good, and the phone also charges pretty quickly with the 33-watt turbocharger that is bundled in the box, and I get about in about 1 hour or so the phone charges completely from 10 to 100%, and that is quite fast, I would say. So yes, overall I'm very impressed with the battery performance of the Moto S30. Now it's time to talk about the software and the connectivity options of the Moto S30. I believe software is one of the strongest points of the Moto S30 and Motorola devices overall, because it comes with Android 12 on board with Motorola's MyUX on top, which adds quite a few features, and all those features are really useful in day-to-day usage. Now, Motorola promises 2 years of Android updates and 3 years of security updates, and they will provide the security updates bi-monthly, so there will be a 2-month gap between the security updates. So I bought the phone in July and right now I'm on the August security patch, so I've got the first update. I think Motorola will deliver on the promise. This is the part of their S series, which is kind of their flagship. Now, if we specifically talk about MyUX, it might just be the best version of Android or the best clean version of Android that you would ever use in your life, and I absolutely love MyUX on Motorola devices. It is a lightweight OS with a ton of features baked in, and all of them are very useful in your day-to-day usage. The look is quite close to stock Android, but there are flares by Motorola here and there, and there is little to no bloatware on the device. I only had Facebook pre-installed on it, and that's pretty much about it for the bloatware. And the phone works buttery smooth with MyUX and Android 12, and everything is very quick. Little things like the peak display, the chop to turn on the flashlight, the double twist to turn on the camera, the one-handed mode, all of these are quality of life improvements that Motorola software adds on top of stock Android. Plus the Moto Edge 30 also has NFC, which makes it easier, especially for me, and I don't have to carry my wallet everywhere because I just add my cards on the phone and I make tap and pay payments with the phone itself. And yeah, that is a really important thing for me.
So one amazing feature on Motorola devices is something called as Ready For, which is kind of a similar thing like Samsung's DeX. So it lets you use your phone as a desktop if you need it sometime, and it works with TVs with Miracast or with PCs with the Ready For application. And yeah, it's pretty cool, and it is like very handy when you are in a pinch and need to do some work and something, and you can use your phone as a trackpad and a lot of things. And yeah, it's a pretty cool feature to have on a smartphone.
The only issues that I have noticed with the Moto S30 software is that the phone restarted automatically a few times in my 3 months of usage, and there was also an error constantly popping up that the adaptive volume has stopped, and I couldn't recreate both of these intentionally, but yeah, these were happening a lot, and yeah, it's still happening. Now, if we talk about the connectivity options on the Moto S30, so it does come with Wi-Fi 6E support, and the Bluetooth version is 5.2, and they also get support for 13 bands of 5G, which I believe will be covered in all of the areas in India wherever 5G launches. So whenever your area gets 5G, I believe the Moto S30 will support it. Now, the 4G carrier aggregation is also pretty nice. I got 4G plus carrier aggregation in almost all the places that I went to, both with Vodafone and the Jio. The earpiece is also quite loud for voice calls, and you won't really have any issues while taking calls with the earpiece. And there were no call drops or connection drops in my usage time, at least. Now, one thing that bum out a few buyers is that the Moto S30 does come with the Google Dialer, which obviously will notify the other person if you are recording a call, so that might be a deal breaker for some people. Now, let us finally talk about the cameras of the Moto S30. So the Moto S30 features 3 cameras at the back and 1 camera at the front. The back houses a 50 megapixel wide camera, a 50 megapixel ultra wide camera, and a 2 megapixel depth camera, which is completely useless. The primary camera does have OIS, which is a good thing, and the front camera is a 32 megapixel sensor. Now, the sensors are very capable of producing good quality images, but the issue here is with the software and the processing that Motorola does. The colors of the images that come out from the S30 are quite natural, and yeah, they are quite good, but it might be a little dull for some people who are used to more punchier colors in their photos. Although the images coming out of the Moto S30 are quite detailed, but sometimes it messes up the HDR and it darkens the image a little bit, which crushes the shadows, but the brighter parts stay quite consistent. Nighttime photography is also not really good. Night photographs have a lot of noise, and yeah, those are not really worthy. But yes, the OIS does help a little bit during night photography or low light photography, and there is also a auto night mode option available on the app. Now, the camera app is very feature rich. It has all the features that you expect from a modern camera app to have. It does have a very detailed pro mode, which also lets you shoot raw images, and you can also shoot high-res 50 megapixel images from both the main and the ultra wide cameras, which is really nice. The front camera is also quite decent and produces crisp and clear selfies, but all the cameras really mess up the skin tone sometimes and make them reddish. In the video section, you can shoot up to 4K 30 fps with the wide, the ultra wide, and the front camera, and that is really nice. But while shooting video, you cannot really switch between the main and the ultra wide camera on the back, so that is a bummer. And the videos coming out of the Moto S30 look really crisp. The ones shot with the main sensor are quite stable, and the videos are quite usable, I would say, especially the 4K 30 fps ones. So yes, while the processing is not the best, the Moto S30 cameras are surely capable. If you manage to tinker around with the pro mode every time you want to shoot something, then I believe the Moto S30 can pull out quite a few good shots. And here are all the samples that you saw throughout the video. Now finally, I would like to say that The Moto S30 is going on sale on Flipkart and you can get it for as low as 22,000, and for that price the Moto S30 is a completely steal deal. It's almost a complete smartphone with like quite good cameras, great performance, incredible battery life, a pretty good display, and very lightweight like design and build. So yeah, it's an overall really good phone if you like want to get it, and at 22,000 it's a stellar deal. And you can also add in like exchange bonuses and all that, and you can get it for even lower. And yeah, to be honest, the Moto S30 is one of the finest devices that Motorola has launched in 2022, and I would wholeheartedly recommend you this phone if you are not giving priority to the like cameras that much. So yeah, that's pretty much it for my review of the Moto S30 after using it for 3 months. If you have any further questions, you can leave them in the comments down below, or you can follow me on Instagram and Twitter and DM me there. So if you like the content, then don't forget to hit that like button and definitely subscribe to the channel to see more videos like this. Also hit that bell notification to stay notified about my new uploads. So yeah, with that said, I'm Shinobi and I'm signing out. Peace.